Okay, so representations of Pompeii and Herculaneum over time. So in this PowerPoint and video, we're going to be looking at how Pompeii and Herculaneum have been represented in history. So representations have included novels, literature, art, including neoclassical art, romanticism, film, as well as virtual reality. So drama and tragedy as inspiration. The drama and tragedy of the events at Pompeii and Herculaneum in AD 79 have inspired artists and writers over time. Pompeii and Herculaneum have been represented by art, writers, filmmakers, and poems both factually and fictionally from the time the excavations began. Pliny the Younger's written account is the first known representation. It is our most detailed primary source of evidence, and it helps, I guess, with that inspiration to the drama and tragedy. So, writers. So, we're looking at literature. So, we've got Théophile, Gautier, Stendhal, Francois Mazois, Edward Bulwer-Lytton, and Robert Harris, all of whom have written in some capacity about Pompeii and Herculaneum. So, famous novels. Edward Bulwer-Lytton in 1834 wrote The Last Days of Pompeii. It's one of the most famous novels on Pompeii. It's like a crime story. It's an account of people's last moments of life based on the deductions about their activities from the physical evidence. And from that book, there have been multiple film adaptations. Then you have Robert Harris. It's called Pompeii, a novel. It's historical fiction. It was written in 2003. A blend of fictional characters with the real-life eruption of Mount Vesuvius. Especially notable for the author's references to various aspects of volcanology and the use of the Roman calendar. Then you have Mark Twain. In 1869, he wrote The Innocents Abroad. The 19th century novelist Mark Twain gives a very unique account of Pompeii in his book, The Innocents Abroad. He presents the city not in an archaeological, symbolic, or reconstructive manner, but seen through an irrelevant and distinctly American perspective. He writes, "The sun shines as brightly down on old Pompeii today as it did when Christ was born in Bethlehem, and its streets are cleaner 100 times than ever Pompeian saw them in her prime." You can have a read through the rest of that if you'd like to see, I guess, where he's coming from in his book. His representation serves to show how great a person's present and background affects the interpretation of the past. So being a member of a relatively young nation, he had a very different concept of history than other European writers who use Pompeii in their works. Pompey draws from Twain not grand statements about glory of bygone civilizations, but instead a more pragmatic, if somewhat flippant criticisms of the inefficiency of ancient times. So then you have some artistic representations. So 18th century onwards, European artists produced engravings and paintings that portrayed elements of their accounts. For example, you have Karl Bruliov, who made the masterpiece in 1828 called The Last Days of Pompeii. It depicts the terrified inhabitants. It's in the Russian Museum. This is what it looks like. Absolutely amazing work of art, but you can see here, inspired by that drama and tragedy unfolding in this picture. So over time, early representations focused on neoclassical aspects. Then you have representations focusing on human disaster. Then you've got this drawing into the virtual reconstructions of the human elements. For example, you've got Fiorelli's plaster cast, and then you have more virtual realities and things coming in as well. This is the oldest image that we have of Vesuvius, and this is a primary source of evidence from the time. It's a painting of Vesuvius, 1879, discovered in 1879. It's called at the Casa del Centario, one of the largest houses. Bacchus, the god of wine, pictured standing before the mountain, covered in vineyards. Neoclassical art. So mid-18th century to the early 19th century, neoclassical art is a severe and unemotional form of art, harkening back to the grandeur of the ancient Greece and Rome. Some examples are shown. This is Theodore Chaucer's work of art. He did it in ink and watercolor. It depicts an open area, more commonly known as the House of Sallust, built during the 2nd century and rediscovered during excavations. This is another one by Francois Mazois, Ruins of Pompeii. Engraved illustrations from the 2nd volume. You can see what it looks like sort of there. This is another one of his. The description is small triclinium beneath the vine arbor in Pompeii. So another one by Giovanni Battista. The scene depicts depicted here is located close to Herculaneum gates and can still be found today. Everything is, however, more modest in appearance than this drawing would indicate. This is Jacob Philip Hackett's. He has, I guess, the view of the ruins of Pompeii surrounded by vineyards and the lake of Salerno in the distance, bounded by the mountains, and in the foreground adorned with cattle and figures. Romanticism. So this is an artistic and intellectual movement in history of ideas, and it originated in the late 18th century. It stressed emotion, which might include trepidation or horror. It's also noted for its elevation of the achievements of what is perceived as heroic individuals. So these are some examples of Romanticism with Pompeii as a theme. So like the picture we saw before, Bryullow's picture of Pompeii. This is another one by Carl Bryullow. This is one by Pierre-Jacques Volaire, The Eruption of Mount Vesuvius. This is one by Pierre-Jacques Volaire again, and it's Vesuvius as well. Pierre-Henri Valenciennes, he witnessed a Vesuvius eruption in 1779, and he used his impressions in the depiction of the eruption, 79 AD, shows the death of Pliny the Elder on the shore at Stabiae. So some artists have depicted Pompeii and Herculaneum as ruins. Others have concentrated on representing the archaeological excavations being conducted there. For example, Sir William Gell's Pompeiana shows views of the city and the buildings that had been excavated at the time. Other artists, Paul Alfred Ducazon, William Hamilton, and Jacob Philip Hackett. Alright, Pompeian film. The Last Days of Pompeii. There's one in 1913, one in 1935, and another one in 1960. All called The Last Days of Pompeii. All movies on what happened in Pompeii on that fateful day. Then recently, 2003, you had the dramaticized documentary, which is the one that I spoke to you about. That's on YouTube that you can watch. It's by the BBC. It's like a documentary, but it's like dramatized. And then you got the movie from 2014, Pompeii. So you should know that one as well. Then virtual reality. So you've got some representations of past spaces through animation, reconstruction, stills, etc. It's based on the development of novel computing solutions to modeling, representation, and interpretations of space in the archaeological past. Computer modelings provide a unique appreciation of the site and context by virtually being able to go and see them through the computer. A couple of great websites. You've got a 10-minute virtual reality film of the House of Julius Polybius. You can access that link if you'd like to go and check it out. The Pompeii Forum project is a 360-degree virtual reality scenes from different parts of the city. You got the site SFCI Archive Virtual Pompeii from 1996, so you can do a virtual tour of there. Now you've got some representations of Herculaneum as well. So this is sort of where it starts, AD 79, the eruption. There's another eruption in 203 and 1139. Then in 1503, a mapmaker draws the region. 1709, the workers are digging in a well built on top of Herculaneum and discover the ancient theatre. Carl Weber in 1750 discovers, between 1750 and 65, the Villa of Papyri, which is the villa that I spoke to you about the other day that I told you that is in California, and they've reconstructed it. 1828, the 20th century archaeologists used machines to uncover a large part of the buried town. And Allied forces attack in 1944. and Goering takes famous bronze statues from the Museum of Naples. 1982, ditch diggers discovered the first skeletons on Herculaneums' ancient beach. We'll have a look at those later. And then today, there's damaged frescoes, mosaics caused by acidic pigeon droppings. Okay, we're done.